This is the subject you really wanted to talk about. Yeah. This is the reason for the roll-up this week. So I'm not going to steal your thunder, but I've read everything that Polynomia has written. I suggest you do the same. I know you have too, David, but give us the TLDR take. I know we're going to do a longer podcast on modular blockchains and the future scalability of Ethereum, how it relates, and why we're so excited about this concept. But give us the TLDR here.
Yeah, so we all know the concept of ultrasound money with Ether. This is going to become ultimately the narrative of ultra scalable Ethereum in the same vein, right? One half of the coin is ultrasound money. The other half of Ethereum is ultra scalable Ethereum. The way that we get to ultra scalable Ethereum is by this concept called modular blockchains, or simply the delegation of labor, the separation of labor of how blockchains operate into their respective components where they are optimized for. So Polynomia, who has a great blog, who's one of probably the most succinct and illustrative,
most accessible,
illustrators of how this whole rollups plus data layers, Ethereum L1 is going to work, the relationships of all these things. Polynomia tweets, the first time in 12 years, which he is calling the monolithic blockchain era, the last 12 years of crypto, we had the blockchain trilemma. With ZK proofs, zero knowledge proofs, and data sharding, we have economies of scale that invert the trilemma. The more decentralized you are, the more scale there is, and the cheaper the transactions get. It's a whole new paradigm, Polynomia says. So I think there's a couple more times in the rollup that we're going to touch on this, but basically, before I get there, I'll read the second tweet. Polynomia says, monolithic blockchains are like blockchains that try and do everything at the L1 without any sort of just accessories like rollups, just like cram all the things into one base chain.
So really quick, what that means is Ethereum's current state is a monolithic blockchain because it does consensus, data, and also execution on the same chain. And all of the alternative layer ones do that as well. Solana is trying to do all three of those things as well. And that's what he calls a monolithic blockchain. But Ethereum's future is changing with the merge and then the future upgrades that's undergoing. But anyway, continue.
All right. So Polynomia says monolithic blockchains are crippled by Moore's law and will only grow 64x over the coming decade. Modular architectures will grow by 1 million x at the same time. The only way the blockchain industry attains global scale. And so he finishes off, for example, by 2030, 15 million transactions per second with ZK rollups on Ethereum alone. What we are talking about is basically rollups, but also importantly, the illustration of the execution environment is actually like when you send a transaction, where that transaction actually gets executed. You can take that off of the L1 and put it on the L2. Then you can leave the consensus side of things to just optimize that on the L1. Make the layer 1 of Ethereum really, really good at consensus. Put all of the execution environments where you actually send transactions on the L2s, let the L2s bundle them up, and then package them in a very, very small data footprint and put them on the L1. And this division of labor allows the ZK rollups, the rollups chains to optimize for being really, really fast, really, really just good execution environments for doing crypto things. Then the nature of a rollups consolidates it and makes and puts it on Ethereum, which has been optimized for consensus. It never ever goes down. It's the highest uptime system ever. And also has high data availability, and basically data availability is like food for the rollups, right? You need the data to be available, and you need the data to have the uptime of something that is optimized for uptime, right? So ZK rollups not actually have to optimize for uptime. Like they can actually go down, and we actually saw that happen when Arbitrum 1 went down. But importantly, you can always get your money back out via the nature of rollups. But you let rollups do the execution, and you let the Ethereum L1 do the consensus and the data availability. And this is what allows you to not just like scale linearly, like what he's saying with Moore's law, but scale exponentially. And this is the future of ultra scalable Ethereum. And not only is this really good tech, but it's like blockchain agnostic tech. And so we were actually also seeing Tezos go with this roadmap because it's actually a logical conclusion of how blockchains are designed. The bad way to do things is try and just like push everything into one single monolithic blockchain. And the good way to do things is to optimize the different modular components of a blockchain for what they are good at and allow them to be really, really good at those things and allow them to come together as a modular system. That is the narrative that's going to be happening over Ethereum over the next few weeks.
And the reason that a monolithic blockchain design is bad is because if you want to scale, you have to sacrifice decentralization in order to do it. You have to disallow individuals from running their own nodes. You have to run those nodes in data centers or large institutions, large organizations in order to do it. So you sacrifice security and you sacrifice decentralization. There's so much to unpack here. Like we'll talk about it a couple more times in the episode. David and I are going to do an entire podcast about this in the future, coming up with an agenda for that. But keep this in mind, ultra scalability. That is the future for Ethereum. And it happens through this modular blockchain design that Ethereum is kind of silently pivoting to. I don't think anyone's really picked up on this until Polynomia started posting. It's been the design path, but there hasn't really been a term or a narrative or a way to share what's actually going on. Here's another modular blockchain take because it's modular blockchain roll up today. What's this take?
Yeah, this is coming out of a Chainlink god who I actually had the pleasure of meeting in New York a couple weeks ago. Optimistic.
Wait, he's not a frog? Real person?
He's not a frog. Yeah.
All right. Say no more.
Optimistic rollups, ZK rollups, validiums, volitions means a shift from a monolithic blockchain model to segregating security, data availability, and execution into different layers. The key is to not just mitigating the blockchain trilemma, but inverting it, aka solving it. So yeah, just hammering the point home. The era of modular blockchains are upon us, and it's how we go from just like a little bit more scale to like almost infinitely more scale. Modular blockchains.
When you say upon us, it's like just starting, right? That's why we haven't felt its effect yet, right? We still need a few other key technologies to.
DYDX users have felt it.
DYDX users have felt it. We'll get to that soon too. But let's look at this. This looks like a galaxy nice spiral galaxy image. I'll read out the tweet. In Q1 2021, ETH settled 1.5 trillion in transactions, more than all other blockchains combined. In 2022, ZK rollups and a sharded data structure could increase ETH's max throughput from 45 transactions per second to 100,000 transactions per second, setting the stage for ETH to become the universal store of value. This is a spiral galaxy with ETH in the center, where it's sort of the black hole would be, all the star clusters clustered in the center, and it's all of the various M1 that is like circulating currency, 35 trillion, M2 currency and savings, 60 trillion, stocks, bonds, real estate, derivatives, all swirling around the black hole, the gravity vortex, the singularity that is Ethereum. And I think that's a good analogy. Any other takes? Yeah,
this also lends itself towards the modular blockchain narrative because all of these different use cases need different constructions. And when you have a single monolithic blockchain, you force every use case to just operate under the same structure, the same monolithic structure. But the validiums, volitions, ZK rollups, optimistic rollups, they offer different components that you can piece together as you see fit that is optimized for your specific use case. And so having this modularity allows Ethereum and all of its layer 2s to be constructed in a way that is optimized for that specific use case. And one thing that Ethereum does very, very well is it maximizes choice for the developers and for the users. And when choice is maximized, innovation explodes.
Guys, if you're having trouble with some of the terminology like, ZK, rollup, zero knowledge, or validiums or volitions, never fear. Just keep tuning into Bankless. We will have some episodes for you that dive into these topics in detail. But David, end of the show, almost end of the show. I got to ask you the question we always talk about, which is, what are you excited about this week?
All right, I'm excited about modular blockchains. I think modular blockchains are the future. That is how we solve basically everything. When crypto says like it wants to take over, or Ethereum people say like we're going to tokenize everything, well, we need the appropriate infrastructure to do that. And like I just said, when you have modularity, you get to optimize for that specific module and what it is good for. So let's put the consensus module in the consensus corner and optimize for that. Let's put the execution in the execution corner and optimize for that. And give all options available to everyone how they want to construct their layer 2. And so we've been hammering this from the beginning of Bankless, is like, eventually we are all going to live on layer 2s, and these layer 2s are going to have different flavors, and eventually all of the flavors to do what Ethereum needs to do to put the entire universe on Ethereum. That has always been the goal. And a modular blockchain is how you become expressive enough to allow for optionality for everything to eventually become something on Ethereum. That's what I'm excited about.
That's cool, man.
What are you excited about, Ryan?
You know, I'm gonna +1 on that.
You're excited about modular blockchains?
Yeah, I'm just gonna riff on that, right? It's like a different ways. Like, so I think one of the things we've been able to do is identify things a little bit early, at least some things, right? So like back in 2018, we're telling everyone that ETH as a monetary asset, as a store of value, is undervalued. That's when we come up with ideas like ETH as a triple point asset, right? Staking, EIP 1559, all of these other characteristics that would be built in would turn Ethereum and Ether as an asset into a bond, into a very valuable store of value that is likely far more valuable than even Bitcoin. So we identified that early. And it was underrated at the time. No one believed it at the time. Here's the thing.
Underrated, yeah.
Massively underrated. No one believed it. I believe we're at the point in time where Ethereum's scalability strategy is just as underrated as ETH the asset was back in 2018 and 2019. Okay. I'm just going to say it. I think Ethereum has the best scalability strategy in crypto right now. And nobody knows it. Yeah, it's driving me. It's driving me crazy. Okay. Because like, people are saying, oh, ETH can't scale, and that's why X chain or Y chain, or like, that's why we need all of these things. And it's like, no, it hasn't compromised on decentralization and security, but it is scaling, and its scalability strategy is far more robust and far more achievable, and actually far more scalable than any of these other solutions. It's just taking the time to do it right and keep things decentralized. Polynomia, 15 million transactions per second is a rough estimate by the end of 2030. It's coming. Like, there's cryptography magic, like ZK Rollup, ZK Sync. It's all coming. People just are impatient, and they run and they chase the narrative, and they run and they chase the next ETH killer. And I think it's going to cost investors some money. But like, if you don't believe Ethereum is scaling today, to your point earlier, David, go try DYDX, right? Like, it has the deepest liquidity. We just had Antonio on Bankless this week. The deepest liquidity in all crypto. This is not just decentralized exchanges, crypto exchanges too, for some of their assets. The deepest liquidity. They're doing like 8 billion in daily volume. 8 billion in daily volume, all secured by Ethereum. Don't tell me Ethereum is not scalable. It's scaling now. You just haven't put in the effort to actually like make it scale, and you haven't waited until some of these scalability strategies come online. And the reason I like this is not because like, people say, oh, he's an Ethereum maximalist, right? All he cares about is Ethereum. No, I care about decentralization, the ability to run your own node. Bitcoin preserves this, okay? Ethereum preserves this. There are few, if any, other networks that are focused on security and decentralization right now. I love Solana as an execution layer. Fantastic for a rollup. Avalanche too. Hell, they can all come to the party. They can all play. They can all be execution layers and rollups. But let's not sacrifice the only thing that makes crypto great, which is its decentralization, its security, its self-sovereignty. That is why we're here in the industry. And I think it's massively underrated right now. And people will wake up a year from now, 2 years from now. That's how long it took for ETH the asset to be publicly recognized. And they'll realize that this is the case, that, oh, well, back in 2021, when everyone was saying ETH is not scalable and ETH is dead and some other chain is far more scalable, they actually had the best scalability strategy the entire time. That's my prediction.
Right. And the reason why it's not here yet is because when you don't cut corners, it actually takes longer to get there. I think one thing that Polynomia said, and the reason why this weekly rollup is the blockchain modularity rollup, because Polynomia's writing has just recently come onto the scene, at least for you and me, Ryan. Other people like Anthony Cesano have tapped into this a little bit earlier. But like they just make it really, really accessible and understandable. So definitely recommend reading his blog post if you want to get into the details about why we're so excited about this. I think the big point that listeners should understand, and I'll do my best to explain it here, you're going to need to read his own writing to understand why it's true, is that when you optimize for decentralization, and you put decentralization first, under a roll-up paradigm, that the more decentralized you get actually scales with how scalable you can get, right? And so typically, previously, when you optimized for decentralization, you actually reduced scale. Those are the same spectrum. You can either have scale or you can have decentralization. That was the trilemma. Now, under a blockchain roll-up paradigm, the more decentralized you get, the more the better your node architecture is, and how many nodes there are, gives a roll-up stronger assurances as to their settlements. And so you actually are able to increase throughput on layer 2s by adding decentralization at the layer 1. So more decentralization, more scale, which is completely like paradigm shift with how scale should be thought of. And anyone that thinks that you scale a blockchain by scaling at the L1 should understand that sacrificing decentralization at the L1 sacrifices the ability to have layer 2s. And layer 2s are where you go from, going from like 45 transactions per second to 100 million transactions per second. 100 million transactions per second can only ever happen at a database layer, a one-of-one nodes, or on layer 2s. And the way that it happens on layer 2s is if the main chain is maximized for decentralization, you actually get the bajillion transactions per second without sacrificing decentralization. This is the way blockchains are scaling. This is technology that's independent and agnostic of political alignment. Rollups are not an Ethereum technology. Like I said earlier in the show, Tezos is also going by the same roadmap because developers have come to this logical conclusion as this is how a blockchain should work. And so that is why we are excited about this.
Tezos, Near too, a number of them have discarded the monolithic blockchain strategy. I think that's what it is for us. Like bottom line is long-term games, right? I think this is the long-term game, and the short-term game are these monolithic blockchains right now.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.